the Lone Lone Trailer. We had a lot of fun. But we had even more fun making Forever Darling.
Movies, television shows, commercials. My dad managed all of my parents' projects, and he co-starred every week in I Love Lucy, and he also ran Desi Lou Studios on top of it.
He also took enormous risks. I mean, when you stop to think that he went and bought RKO during a break in the show, which we were doing,
$6 million cash. That was the deal. My heavens, after having started at RKO, that $75 a week, now she owns the studio.
As a matter of fact, we decided to sell I Love Lucy back shortly before that.
We had used that reasoning in justifying the sale of the I Love Lucy shows back to CBS. We sold all right, title, and interest to them.
What did you do that way?
I told you, right or wrong, Lucy, that was the decision we made.
And people have looked back now and said, look at all the money that CBS has made. What they forget, I think, or overlook, is that
we extrapolated out the number of shows that would have to be sold in markets untold to come up to net the company and Lucy and Desi the amount of money that CBS was willing to pay. There was no market. Whoever thought this would have happened?
there was really no way that Lucy and Desi, or Desi Lou Productions, could have distributed those films because the distribution rights belonged to CBS.
As it turns out, it was probably the worst deal ever made.
But it was the proceeds from the sale of the I Love Lucy films that gave Desi the idea that he was interested in acquiring a major studio.
He had 16 shows on the air. We owned 3 studios, and Desi did it all. All I did was have babies and do the show, and loved every minute of it.
But at one time or another, you had many, many big stars working for Desi Lou.
Yeah, mainly I had Lucy.
Yeah.
That was quite a bit of help.
Yeah, but off of that.
No matter how hard he worked or what a great businessman he was, she was the one with all the accolades and the credits, and she was the clown. The show was built around her, you know, and the backstage portions that he did were not acknowledged in those days. The show got on, it was good, and it worked, and they went on from there, and I think he kept trying to do it more and more and more and more and more and bigger and better, and, you know, hello, I'm here working too, and he never got the credit till he was dead.
Sometimes he got sick of all the business because he had more fun performing. I heard him say that. He said sometime he felt like selling the whole thing to the cemetery next door.
Desi's desire to be a man in his own right was somewhere along the line taken away from him.
There was a certain rivalry in Dr. Arnaz. He did not want Desi, in his great importance, to be more important than he had been.
The fact that Lucy became the star of the show only increased that. It was already there. His anger. Maybe his mother.
Lolita, I thought, was very domineering, and she just demanded that Desi would take care of her and buy her things, in fact, a car that she couldn't even drive. I think she looked on him more like a replacement of a husband. He felt very obligated.
I don't think Desi ever knew how good he was in many respects. And he took it out in other ways.
It's one thing to be sort of a philanderer. It's another thing to do it and have it known.
Desi once said to us, what the hell's the matter with her? I love her. I don't go out with other women. I go out with hookers. That's the Latin culture, you see. It's perfectly acceptable. But Lucy couldn't accept it.
Real honest-to-God Latin, and he never changed.
And he never considered it disloyalty. He didn't think it had anything whatsoever to do with his marriage or his wife.
It became obvious that there were troubles because it began to be talked about. And then, of course, Desi's drinking, which started about the middle of 55, if memory serves me.
I think the pressures of the studio, stress, you reach for a drink in the afternoon to and that's a trap.
A lot of what we do is looking for happiness in the wrong places. A lot of money, power, and drugs and alcohol are one of the other things that we think will help us feel better.
His drinking reached a point where he had a wake-up drink, straightened him out. He was drunk at 11.
He got to the point where he really no longer was in control of himself, and his opinions were out of drunkenness, out of alcohol.
Just like any other family, we had problems in our family, and so part of the problem was admitting that there was a problem.
Well, I'm sick and tired of the whole thing.
It seems to me you're just sick of me. You just don't like our whole marriage, Lorenzo Vega.
Well, maybe I don't, Susie Vega.
I think they would have loved to have been the Ricardos. But unfortunately, the Ricardos had a way of kissing and making up. I think they both found it extraordinarily hard to say I'm sorry.
They weren't getting along, and we knew it.
What's happened to us, Susie?
It was an era where people didn't get help, so they didn't have anybody explaining to them why they were the way they were. So it was just sort of a vicious circle, I think.
I keep remembering the way it was the first year of our marriage. We had something then that seems to have slipped away from us. In those days, there was nobody in the whole world but just you and me. That's why I want you to go on this trip with me. Because I think it gives a chance to get to know each other again.
He went to Europe for the reason that so many people, when their marriage is breaking up, they decide they're going to somehow, recapture something.
Oh yeah, I remember all of the trips, because I'll tell you, those days were very intense because that was when they were really going at it.
And I remember hearing them scream, and the two doors were open, and my mother was leaning over him with her long red nails. They were poised at him like that. And she said, with her teeth gritted in her mouth in a horrible position, "I wish you were dead."
Of course, this was all a disaster trip because your father's drinking just increased enormously, and he was drunk a great deal of his time and fell down in the cobblestones, and the face was all, the next morning the face was all purple and looked like a pomegranate.
It scared me to death. I think as a kid, all you're worried about is are they going to go away and leave me? Maybe I even thought it was my fault. I don't know. It was scary.
We were very young, and we knew what was going on, and it was very, very bad for everyone.
He had to leave him, they separated.
Every time I hear, "You better sit down, kids," I have a lot of trouble with that because it's exactly what happened.
Well, we'll always remember when they sat us down and said, "Look, things aren't working." I mean, I remember word for word. I was 6 years old. I remember word for word what they said.
Even though they tried to maintain a working relationship, after the divorce, my parents' professional partnership fell apart too.
Is that
Yes,
true, you know?
yes. It got tough on the set, too, at the end. At the thought of quitting.
I knew it was the end. This is the end of something very special, and I know I've been very upset.
I will never forget the day they were doing the last of the I Love Lucy's, and she was playing a geisha. And the white makeup. And she'd been crying a lot. The eyes were extremely red. It gave her a rather, in looking at her, what I thought was a grotesque look, because the eyes and sad.
But kisses and hugs and tears was the ending.
It's a tragedy in many ways because they went at it for all the right reasons originally. And the only reason I Love Lucy exists is because they wanted to be together so they could have a family and make the marriage work. So they made this show, took off like gangbusters, and now the rest of the universe has it,